Okay, well, now that this is probably the third time that I've recorded this, I should hopefully have it about right. My Cam Studio has infinitesimal settings on it that really mess with things. So let's just get started. Okay, so I chose a presentation that involves what is called the middler. It is an attack software that can be used using a proxy that you would share on a shared network. Let's go ahead and get started with that, and we can run here. Okay, so the middler, we got video slides here. You can get that. That's on the Defcon 16, which is back in 2008. So this may be a little bit outdated, but I thought that the video and the presentation itself was quite interesting to watch, so it was enough for me to want to use for my presentation. What is a middler? A middler is a man-in-the-middle tool that is uses to demonstrate protocol middling attacks. The program itself is led by a Jay Beal. The project involves a team of authors, including the Guardians, which was the website that was showing at the time, which is this, inguardians.com, which looks like they haven't updated their news section since July 31st, but that doesn't mean anything. You can get some of their stuff there. It looks like they're a security corporation that offers pen testing, any kind of vulnerability assessment and such. And let's see. Okay, so let's go back here. The middler is intended to be the man in the middle, obviously, which for every protocol which we can create code. Now it runs on Linux and Mac OS X, which I'm not really overly knowledgeable in the Mac OS operating system. I know enough about Linux to be pretty dangerous, and I primarily like to stick to both Linux and Windows machines, which it's functional on both. Current code base at the time of 2008 was in the beta state. It's got a full release coming soon on their wiki page. More documentation there as well. Easier installation and even more plugins. I haven't seen any plugins on it, but then again, this is just the presentation. Okay, so who owns it? Justin Surley is a co-author. We have Matt Carpenter and Tom Listen both as emeritus co-authors. Brandon Edwards is a co-author. Focus on installation and updates. Then there's Jay Beal. He did most of the presentation. He's a co-author and project lead. We can get the code at it's going to be hosted free at code.google.com/p/middler. It's also on their Guardian site. Now, main points that they covered was the attack vectors over shared networks, any automatic exploiting, using mixed HTTP, HTTPS sites. Hopefully not many corporations use that anymore. Launching non-interactive CSRF attacks on online banking, any kind of Trojaning software installation and updates, which is pretty cool. I think that right there trumps. That's probably what caught my interest in everything. Injecting browser-exploits and adding root certifications, protecting yourself on hostile lands, which they didn't really cover too much, so I'm not going to cover as much on that as well. The only thing I can say is if you go to like hotels or any place that has a shared network, either bring your own internet, which would be like mobile devices, or don't use theirs at all. That's the basically your best ways to protect yourself there. Now, shared networks can range from hotels to coffee shops to bookstores and even airplanes, which are all open to application level monitoring attack at all times. By sharing a LAN, your traffic can be viewed and modified, which at that point you can replace the DHCP server on the network using your own machine as a DNS or DHCP server, which or you can use it as a ARP spoofing the real router in any DNS servers. Now, when it comes to mixed HTTPS and HTTP sites, both they're kind of just bad for business. They only encrypt your login and form, which leaves your users to open to attack. Which I think personally you should just leave everything as HTTPS on all your pages. Best way to keep everything secure. Obviously, it'll wait till you hit a clear text or any kind of logout page, which it'll hit that. But at least by using HTTPS, you'll keep your activity at the time secure. The demo that they used at the time was how LinkedIn used to direct to an HTTP URL after logging in via the HTTPS landing site. I'm sure 5 years later they have fixed this issue, but it's still, at that point, you think that it'd be kind of a little dumb to redirect to an HTTP after logging in. I don't see why you would just keep everything on HTTPS. Because as an attacker, all you have to do is inject a JavaScript code into any one of the clear text URLs, and boom, you got them. By knowing when logging in, you just go through the history of the proxied user, and you can see what URLs they've visited, that you can gain access to the links that they use to log in, and at that point you can inject JavaScript in any HTTP carried pages that the user has open to attack those login whenever they navigate to those URLs. How it's done is you can direct the client to faked hosts with DNS or DHCP spoofing, or you can do the ARP spoofing. You can pass the HTTPS traffic through unmodified, yet you can inject JavaScript into clear text traffic. You can store their session keys and send fake parallel requests. You can intercept logout requests and then replace HTTPS links in any proxy page. The middler is a neat little tool that actually does all this. So that way, it's basically point and click kind of thing. Middler can insert redirects with either HTTP codes or JavaScript. It changes basically the URLs from https foo.com/bar to http foo.com/secure4-bar, and then it rewrites in both directions transparently, giving the image that it's back to https foo.com-bar when you're actually at the secure4-bar, and the person who depends on the original server and site to automatically redirect that to the secure HTTPS is none the wiser. But it's not just for web apps. The middler is actually, there's more than that happens over HTTP than that, which leads us to the really cool part that I found was the Trojan insertion, which several non-giant software vendors they do software installation, and I know on all of our laptops, on my laptop, I have a ton of just smaller stuff that automatically updates, which it updates over HTTP. There's no public key verification of the packages that you install, and it's basically leaving it open to, you can sniff those when you're on that proxied server. You can sniff for any vulnerabilities. Your system will pull down a page over HTTP that includes available update names, versions, locations, and sometimes even MD5 sums. Again, since the updates take time download up to 20 minutes, you could sniff that line. You have plenty of time to sniff that line and use any vulnerabilities to attack. While the large operating system vendors generally get this right by packaging their own PGP public keys with the original operating system, not everybody else does. And the middler has plugins to automate that. Installer out app for the iPhone, Mac ports. I'm not really an iPhone or Mac user. I would like to see some more plugins for the Android operating system, just to see what we can pull off with that, which I'm sure they probably already have, since it's not too hard to do any kind of application programming. It's actually easier to program for the Android OS. Which brings us to the end of the slideshow. I thought the middler was a pretty interesting little tool that can be used, and I think it can go and coincide with a lot of the tools that are on Backtrack, Kali Linux operating systems, since they primarily work in the Linux world. So I want to thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you find it as interesting as I did, and I thank you for your time.